State and local laws should have precedence over national laws. I'm going to go neutral on this one because there are some areas where I believe that the law should all be the same across all states. But there are also instances where, like, if the states were not able to have precedence over national laws, then nothing would ever get done. So I'm gonna say neutral. War usually leads to worse outcomes. Well, the outcomes of war can be good for the winner. So 50% of the parties involved, let's say, they have good outcomes, and then the other 50% have worse outcomes, unless the winners help the losers in their rebuilding, which in small scale conflicts will never happen. Does it usually lead to worse outcomes though? When technology usually advances, patriotism increases a lot of the time, unless it's a very unpopular war. I'll disagree. International aid is a waste of money. Unless it's strongly in the interest of our nation, unless it's a very close ally that isn't trying to, like, mooch off of us, you know. Like, Israel. Okay, Israel can sustain itself. Israel has been just fine ever since its creation, okay? They've won every single war they've been in, I think. Maybe all but one, because they lost the Sinai Peninsula, but if we're talking about preserving the ideology of a nation, like if the Vietnam War was just kicking up right now and we were supporting South Vietnam, I'm okay with that. Because they're not trying to mooch out. They legitimately need it, and they are our ally. They are ideologically similar to us. It would be beneficial to help them. It would be beneficial for them to win the Vietnam War. Of course, historically, they didn't, even with our explicit help. But they would have lasted a lot shorter life than if we didn't help rather than if we did. And we did help, and they lasted until we pulled out, and there was a ceasefire, okay? They had a ceasefire. Everything was peaceful when we left. Maybe not everything, but it was generally it was a conventional peace, okay? And then after we pulled out and everything, the treaty was broken, and the South was conquered. International aid. So, is international aid a waste of money? I'm gonna agree, because the cases where it is beneficial are very exclusive cases to me. The wealthy have far more than they need. Democracy makes it too easy for a majority to further itself at the expense of minorities. And I'm assuming it's not talking about race. I'm assuming it's talking about, again, majority rule. So I'm going to agree with that. Some freedom must be given up in order to keep people safe. Yes. But then again, it's a slippery slope. You have to be careful. There are things that are restricted that don't make sense to be restricted. Restrict the things that apply to the problem, which is the reason why you're able to restrict things. Laws should be completely consistent within all regions of a nation. Well, there are circumstances where that wouldn't make sense. But there are circumstances where that would make sense. but I'm going to have to agree with that. Um, Having independent nations with the risk of global conflict creates a large threat to humanity as a whole. So, I would like to see a unified planet at some point. I'm not going to see that. I would like to, but I'm not going to. This idea of a united Earth that keeps coming up probably will never happen. And if it does happen, it's going to take centuries. So I'm actually going to disagree with that. Sex outside marriage is immoral. No, it's not. Traditional medicines are often more effective than modern medicines. Disagree. Better world would come from automation, science, and technology. I agree with science and technology. At least in the short term, I disagree with the automation part. So there seem to be two trains of thought when it comes to this. There are the futurists and the transhumanists. The futurists are pro-automation. They want machinery to do and AI to do everything that is necessary for the people. Transhumanism, however, is more along the lines of augmenting the human species to be able to perform these tasks more efficiently, rather than relying on just the machines themselves. I'm going to agree because science and technology will generally be beneficial. Oppression by corporations is more of a concern than oppression by governments. I disagree. That really, it depends. Corporations are, well, okay, so corporations lobby, right? They're lobbyists. So they basically control our government, but despite that, we aren't necessarily oppressed like some nations are. So the corporations aren't oppressing us. Maybe in some cases that statement could be true, but more often than not, it's not oppression. If you have nothing to hide, then you shouldn't care about the government having access to your communications. I disagree because I don't have anything to hide. But if the government has access to my communications and I go on Xbox and start making tasteless jokes, and that gets me thrown in jail. Jokes are jokes, and sometimes it's hard to determine if you're outside like a friend group. Sometimes it's hard to determine whether or not they're jokes. You know what I mean? So I feel like if the government had access to all communications, then people would be accused of crimes that they shouldn't be, because they don't actually believe the things that they are saying. But they still said it. So saying you can say you don't believe it all you want, but you still said it. So we gotta preserve the safety of the president, and you said you wanted to blow up the White House, so we're gonna put you in jail for the sake of the president. I mean, that, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's my reasoning for that. Religious clothing should be banned from public. No, that's dumb. Anybody who wants to enter the country should be able to. No, not anyone. You need to be a citizen. You need to gain your citizenship if you want to live here. You can visit if you have a passport. That's what those are for. The government should not regulate the economy at all. There are areas where the economy should be regulated, I think, especially if a country is pursuing self-sufficiency. But a lot of these areas are temporary, should be temporary. I believe government regulation can just create criminal markets, which can be dangerous. I think the government should regulate to an extent. But I'd rather have a free market than a controlled one. Most bad things happening in the world are caused by us turning away from religion. Most? No. Religion can even cause conflict. Like 9/11. I mean, that was a religiously motivated act of terrorism. If we accept migrants at all, it is important that they assimilate into our culture. Absolutely. Yes. We have an American identity. No matter what color you are, no matter what culture you're a part of, we have an American identity. And part of that is speaking English. I'm not saying that you should only speak English. I'm saying that you should know some English if you want to live here. So you can interact with society. If you have an accent, I don't care if you have an accent. I really don't. I don't understand why people care about that. Accents are fine. I'm not saying, okay, you have to be a white American man speaking English. You have to be an Anglophile and all this stuff. No. But there is a certain degree of identity amongst all Americans who are born here. And if you are a migrant and you want to live here, you should make that identity your own. Immigrants should be expected to learn the language of the country. Yeah. The UN should be abolished. Yes. A group of states without a strong national government is merely an alliance, not a nation. Yeah, of course. Countries that do not serve our interests should be toppled. No. That don't serve our interests, just let them be. As long as they're not threatening our interests, just because they don't serve our interests doesn't mean they should be toppled. Any deals other countries want must be bad for us. Not necessarily. Alright, here we go. So I'm unitary rather than federal. I'm a moderate authoritarian. I'm an isolationist. I like self-sufficiency, not necessarily isolationist. Militarist, I guess. That's kind of skewed. I'm more pro-security, but I am neutral. That's true. I like markets more, but I am neutral again. Moderate secular, that's absolutely true. Extreme progressive. Yeah. More of it's more of a technological thing for me. And I'm an assimilationist. So, but wait, I thought this told you what ideology you were. Does it not? I guess not. All right. Well. Well, anyway, that was my 9 axes results. Take it as you will. I would consider myself to be more pro technocratic Republican style monarchy, okay? Which isn't really realistic, but if I was making an ideal country, that's what it would be. When it comes to just American values, I mean, it is what it is. I align more with the right. There are aspects of the right I don't like. There are aspects of the left that I like a little bit more, but mostly not, to be honest. Um, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I thought it was going to tell me what I was specifically, but I guess not. Um, but anyway, welcome to Tripp News. This was the first video. This is Jthompson signing out.